All the ingredients for civil war should already be in place. ICE will be much more powerful than people imagine. The global economy should have collapsed by 2027.
So Jiang Xueqin just made 3 predictions that people called insane back in 2024. Trump winning, Iran war escalating, and economic collapse coming. 2 years later, he's been right on everything. Now he's breaking down exactly why America's military is failing in Iran and what comes next. Let's break this down.
So I think right now there are 3 major vulnerabilities of the American military. And I'll just go one by one. But the first is political will, the lack of political will, meaning that the American population is not supportive of this war. Close to 80% of Americans oppose a first strike against Iran, and only about 40% of Americans today still support the military operation against Iran. So that's the first issue. Second issue is the lack of manufacturing capacity. So to fight a modern war, you need to produce a lot of munitions, a lot of missiles, a lot of tanks. And unfortunately, what America chose to do was offshore its manufacturing capacity, its factories, to China. And so that's going to be a major constraint on America's capacity to sustain this war as it drags on. So that's number 2. Number 3 is that America is not willing to sustain casualties, and because it looks bad on TV. And already people are not supportive of this war. So if Americans start arriving back home in body bags, then you can imagine major protests across the nation. So these are the 3 major constraints on the American military.
And look where we are now. Trump's ultimatum to Iran has backfired spectacularly. We're burning through Patriot missiles faster than we can produce them. Oil hit $180 per barrel last month. And China controls the supply chains for basically everything we need to fight this war. Jiang called this dependency problem perfectly.
Okay. And what total war is, you structure your entire society to winning the war. Your industry, your culture, your political system all have to be focused on doing whatever it takes to winning the war. So last time America fought a total war was, of course, World War II, and possibly the Korean War. But World War II is a classic example when the entire American industrial base shifted from making cars to making tanks. And that's what you have to do in order to win. Because wars take a long time. They take a lot of resources. Your entire population has to be behind it. And unfortunately, Americans grew up watching the Persian Gulf War in 1991, and then the 2003 Iraq War. And these were quick, simple wars that demonstrated America's technological supremacy. It was like a video game. And so the American population is sort of spoiled. It's become indifferent to war, and believe that, okay, it's going to cost us a lot of money, and it's not moral, and it's terrible that these civilians overseas are going to die, but it's not really our problem. So, in other words, I doubt whether or not the American population is willing to make the sacrifices necessary in order to win this war.
Remember Trump's exact words in January. Iran will be dealt with swiftly and decisively. 3 months later, we're rationing fuel in 15 states while Iran's drone swarms keep hitting our bases. Their strategy of economic warfare through oil choke points is working exactly as Jiang predicted it would.
It's going to be a national draft. It's going to be economic collapse. It's going to be riots in the streets. It's going to be almost civil war in America. That's what you have to do if you actually want to win this war. That's how wars are fought and won in the modern age. Total commitment, total focus in winning this war. And again, the question is, do the Americans have the political will to fight and to win this war? And this is a big question mark.
Gas prices averaging $8.50 nationally, supply chain disruptions hitting grocery stores, and we're already seeing the civil unrest Jiang warned about. The Portland riots last week, the Michigan militia standoff. This is exactly the timeline he laid out for 2026, leading to his predicted 2027 collapse.
Okay, why? Because right now you have asymmetry going on, which is to say the economics of war don't make any sense. Right now, America, because of the military-industrial complex, it's put billions of dollars into this expensive air defense network, right? So you've got the FAT system, thermal high altitude air defense. You've got the Patriot systems. And the military-industrial complex, it's not designed to win wars. It's designed to transfer taxpayer money to a transnational elite, right? It's meant to line the pockets of the national security apparatus, the deep state. And so they build these expensive weapons and they look really fancy and they're really impressive, but they've never been tested in war. Okay. So now we're seeing what these systems look like in war. And it's been an embarrassment for America because you've got these aircraft carriers, the Gerald R. Ford nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the most advanced in the world, $13 billion price tag. It's done nothing in this war. In fact, it sort of ran away from the theater because of this laundry fire.
The numbers prove Jiang right. We've lost $400 billion on the Gerald Ford carrier group that's accomplished nothing, while Iran's $30,000 drones are neutralizing million-dollar defense systems. The Pentagon finally admitted last week they're reassessing cost effectiveness of current weapons platforms.
The Iranians use the Shihad drones, which cost anywhere from between 20,000 to 50,000. You will need about 2 to 3 Patriot missiles to shoot down one of these drones. So the economics doesn't make any sense. For you to win this war, you have to shift the economics to make it much more sustainable. And that basically means mass manufacturing drones. That also means, unfortunately, ground troops, right? Because the problem with air defense is it defends against air. So it is silly for America to send in these advanced fighter jets into Iran against their air defense systems. It doesn't matter even how low tech their air defense is. Eventually, they're going to shoot down some planes, and they have shot down 2 planes already. Yesterday, it was reported they shot down an F-15, and now they're looking for the pilot. The way you counter air defense is you use ground troops, use infantry to clear the air defense so that so you can establish aerial supremacy. But it's almost impossible to establish aerial supremacy against an opponent without ground forces. Okay, so if America is to win this war, it needs ground forces and it needs to have factories mass produce drones as much as Iran is producing drones. So look at the war in Ukraine.
Those economic ratios are devastating. And remember, Jiang calculated this back in 2024 when everyone thought our tech advantage was insurmountable. Yesterday's confirmed loss of that F-15 over the Strait validates everything he said about the unsustainable economics of this conflict.
And it's going to be illegal immigrants, right? So the idea that you're going to have a national draft and all these Gen Z kids who have pretty comfortable lives compared with their parents' generation, right? And they're going to go off to a desert, a mountain fortress, and they're going to go and die and be basically cannon fodder. That to me sounds a bit absurd. But what you can do is you can organize a national draft and then have so much political fervor. People are protesting so much because, quite honestly, Gen Z would rather go to prison than go to Iran, I would think, right? But then what you can do is you can transition and say, fine, let's do a compromise. Let's have the illegal immigrants do this, right? So it's your choice. You can either go back to Latin America, or you can go to Iran and win citizenship for your family. Not just for you, but your immediate family, your children, your parents, your wife. And quite honestly, I hate to say this, but for a lot of illegal immigrants, this is actually a pretty attractive offer. So if I had to guess, I think they will try false flags, and I think they will have a national draft, and I think this will not work out. And so they'll get desperate, and they'll start to recruit illegal immigrants. to fight this war.
And Trump's ICE expansion makes perfect sense now. They've doubled recruitment offices in immigrant communities while quietly changing military service citizenship pathways. This solves the political will problem Jiang identified. You can't draft suburban kids, but you can offer citizenship through service.
I don't mean actually, two militaries fighting each other, but I'm saying like nationwide discontent and riots and protests and insurgencies. Okay, so this is going to be low-level conflict, but it's going to be what the Civil War will look like for the next few years. The global economy should have collapsed by 2027.
We're 18 months into his timeline and tracking perfectly. Inflation at 12%, regional bank failures, supply shortages, and social unrest spreading. The Iran war triggered exactly the cascading economic collapse he predicted would culminate by 2027.
I think Trump's will get his third term. If I were to bet good money on it, in 2028, I think Trump stays in office. How he will do so, I'm not completely sure of, okay? And there are different possibilities. It's possible there's a war going on, and in which case he can suspend the Constitution. It's possible that he runs as vice president and his son, Don Jr., runs as president, and then Don abdicates. There's actually nothing in the Constitution that prevents people from doing that. What prevents people from doing that is convention, morality, norms, values. Donald Trump doesn't care, right? He's fighting for his existence. He's fighting for his life because everyone knows once Donald Trump leaves office, what will happen? The Democrats will use everything that they have to destroy this guy and his entire family. For sure, 100%, okay? So there are different possibilities. But I think in 2028, Donald Trump will still be president of the United States.
Given Jiang's track record, this prediction carries serious weight. Trump's already invoked emergency war powers twice this year. And with the current crisis, constitutional norms look increasingly fragile. Emergency powers during wartime have historically been used to extend executive authority indefinitely.
I think everything's going to blow up in their face. I think transnational capital is in decline. I think their empire is over. I think transnational capital will be dead in 10 years' time.
So by 2045, and this is where it gets interesting, what do you think happens in 2045?
What's remarkable is Jiang's been right about the timeline, the economic collapse, the military failures, everything. Whether the empire's end leads to something better or worse remains the big unknown, but his track record suggests we should take these predictions seriously.